Hello and welcome, fellow awesomeologists, to Awesomeology. I'm Sue.
And I'm Ben, and in this episode, we're going to help my friend Sue safely land her mental airplane after an intense week in the Credit Union Development Educator Program. You're welcome, Sue.
You, man, you really know how to turn a phrase there, Ben. I appreciate that. I am still circling the clouds a little bit. And I know that eventually I'm going to have to come back to Earth and still bring what I've learned with me. And I was particularly excited. I don't think it's giving away, this is not pulling back the curtain too much to know that I write you the notes and then make you say ridiculous things. But the reason I was very excited to use that metaphor is that I stole a metaphor from our friend Sarah Arnoldy as we were in my DE class, as we were talking about a ground rules. And I was very transparent. And I said, one of the ground rules that I think we should have, because I have a friend at work who uses this on me all the time, is that we should know when to say land the plane.
So your group at DE had this as one of their ground rules.
One of our ground rules was to know when
Genius.
to land the plane.
Nice.
So
For a jam-packed week where everybody has a whole lot to say, that's a really great ground rule. Nice.
Yeah. But we'll talk more about that.
Well,
but
we will.
First, we have other stuff to do.
Right. So before I start talking about groups and rules and stuff like that, we should probably level set a little bit. And let's start by telling everyone who doesn't know a little about, doesn't know anything or a little about the DE program. Let's start there and share a little bit to make people just dangerous enough to follow along with us during this episode. Does that sound good?
It's true. And if anyone can follow along with us when we record these episodes, more power to them.
Gold star to you. We will let us know. Let us know if it's all making sense, and we'll ship you that gold star.
Right. So with many thanks to our friends at the National Credit Union Foundation, I pulled this right from the website. And here is their definition of what is the Development Educator Program. Through transformative education, immersive events, and collaboration, DE builds awareness of the development issues that prevent people from achieving financial freedom and how credit unions are uniquely positioned to address them. More than 2,000 people from over 35 countries have graduated from the USDE program since launch in 1982, including our own Ben Bauer.
Woohoo!
Woo! So who do you think, as long as we're level setting, we want people to take this discussion seriously. If there's any chance they could become a DE, who would you suggest? What's the type of person, the archetype of person who should consider the DE program through the National Credit Union Foundation, sponsored by TruStage? There, I got it all out.
Nice. Yeah, which, by the way, let's make sure that we at least touch on TruStage and the facility where it was hosted this year, because I had the pleasure of seeing Sue's final presentation just ahead of graduation, and that was my first time in their new building, and wow, they did an awesome job. But back to your question. The short answer, let's just shorten up this episode real quick, and I'll just say anyone. But we're not going to do that. Don't worry.
You're going to need to add a little context to that,
because right there.
We've got minutes to fill here.
Right. So, I mean, really, the answer is anyone, because I believe, your case is a perfect example where you were there on behalf of Exclamation, obviously with ties to Simplicity Credit Union and our strong DE presence and culture within Simplicity. It was really logical to bring that into our CUSO as well. But you don't have to work directly for a credit union to be a part of the program. Actually, I believe during my year, one of the members of my class was the spouse of someone who was like a CEO or a VP at a credit union. So just when you're in a role like that, and when you're a DE, your family, both your work family and your home family, gets exposed to a lot of the same
Mhm.
stuff that you're exposed to as part of DE, and you hear all the stories and everything. So I thought it was super cool that that he said, yeah, I want to be a part of this thing too. So when my wife's involved in things like DE workshop and stuff that we can talk about in a bit, um, he can be along for the ride and have the same designation that his wife had, which I thought was really cool. So anyway, all of that to say it really is for anyone. But I do think to be a bit more specific, or if especially if there's anyone listening, a credit union or a provider that maybe doesn't have any DE representation at their organization, I think a great place to start is leadership. And that could be relatively new leadership, or maybe even long-term leadership, because the program really is designed to be inclusive to everyone wherever you are in your journey, whether that's your career path or your credit union journey or your DE journey. Um, we've Sharing from my experience, we had people like myself who were with the credit union for less than a year when I went through the program. So for me, it was just hugely beneficial to be completely immersed in all things credit union and philosophy, and to learn about the history and grassroots efforts that really started this whole thing. But then another person at my on my team was a credit union CEO that had been in that role for a long time, had been with credit unions for 30 plus years. And for her, it was just a complete rejuvenation for the home stretch of her career, and to hear both of us kind of talk about our experience or reflect on it at the end of our week and everything. Um, Amazing to hear the difference in experiences, but also a lot of the similarities too. So,
Mhm.
um, but also D just isn't for leadership. I mean, I think there's a huge benefit to sending someone that's, uh, an up and comer, a young professional, maybe even somebody who isn't like identified or viewed as like that next wave of leadership, or, the obvious choice, like, yeah, this person's totally going to be in the C-suite one day, but, just somebody with like an attitude that fits and is, careful about who they are and what they do and what working for a credit union means to them. Um, just an awesome opportunity for someone like that to be exposed to a new audience and be connected to a bunch of people that think, talk, and care about a lot of the
Mhm.
same things that they do. So probably a longer and messier answer than you were looking for, but I think at the end of the day, I can circle right back to the beginning and say it really is for anyone. And your organization might have a strategy to send certain kinds of people based on what you're looking for, what you're trying to do. But um, there's probably not a wrong answer, I suppose.
So the second version of your second answer was much better than your first answer.
Good. Phew.
And yeah, I totally agree. And in my group, we had a CEO, we had branch managers, we had people who were um, leading, sort of team lead
Mhm.
ish area, and we had VPs and AVPs, and we had someone from a QSO. So there was a little QSO bonding that happened between
Oh, there was
me.
another person on your team from Acusa.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
Nice. Awesome.
So
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
really cool. That's cool to hear.
yeah. So really nice breadth and depth of experience
Hmm.
and personality, and
Yeah.
across the whole group too.
Yeah.
And quite a number of people. We had someone from True Stage actually in our group, and
Nice.
yeah. So
Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, you know, we are a QSO, and for anyone that might be a first time listener or needs a refresher, that's Credit Union Service Organization. And it's, we are this separate organization that's also really tied to a credit union.
mhm,
Ours in our case is one credit union, but lots of other QSOs that are um, connected to or created by several credit unions. And I think that this might just be something that I'm making up and might not be entirely true, but I guess a concern that I have is maybe that QSOs can be perceived at at times as maybe a way for a credit union to just earn money, a
Hmm.
profit center. And I mean, that's part of it. There's a business case for sure. But also like if that was what it was all about, like why form it as a QSO? Why not just start it as some completely separate entity that isn't connected to the credit union? So, all that to say, I think that the fact that there's two different QSO people represented on your team at DE, and the fact that QSOs are sending people to be a part of this, super important program, just all the proof that QSOs belong to the movement,
Hmm.
just like credit unions do. So that's a really cool thing.
Yeah.
Awesome to hear.
Yeah.
So, something that we should talk about a little bit is that there's this secrecy around what happens in any given class, and a need to, as they tell you, quote, trust the process. So we'll do our best for this whole episode to keep some of that secrecy in the process intact, but let's do our best to honor that a little bit, and talk about our experience at DE ourselves. Sound good?
That sounds absolutely wonderful. Being new to this alumni association,
Yeah.
I don't know how secret I have to be. And you know what a challenge secrecy is to me sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, because I just want to blah, 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 blah. But let's start with this. And I think we can do this. I think we can answer this question. What was your favorite part of
Yeah.
DE? What was the best part of your experience?
Hmm. Really, really tough for me to say my favorite part, and also to give you an answer that doesn't feel cliche and easy. Because the first thing I want to say that feels cliche and easy is the people, the network,
Hmm.
the group of people that you're introduced to. I think that that is a legit answer, in that um, something that's really unique about DE is, for the most part, and I would say for like the vast majority, everybody's there for a really similar reason. It's like to grow themselves, to put their money where their mouth is, as far as how they feel like they're a part of a movement and a part of something that's more than just an industry, right? So like everybody that's there, they're already kind of bleeding credit unions a little bit, and
Hmm.
this is a way for them to kind of walk the walk, right? So just to be around like a group of super passionate, really like-minded people, um, I think is definitely one of the best parts. And I guess I'd also go a little further to say that for those that maybe come to DE and aren't necessarily thinking like that, or wouldn't consider themselves as someone bleeding credit unions, um, a lot of them are by the end of the week.
Hmm.
So whether you are or you aren't, like, you're there by the end of the week. And I'm sure that there's people that have gone through it and felt like, okay, this is a little too kumbaya for me, or maybe felt forced or something, whatever their feedback might be. Shoot, and that could all just be attached to the mood that they were in that week. Who knows? But um, I think that the connections and the type of connections, I think, are
Hmm.
definitely one of the best parts. I will just add maybe part B to my answer, which is, and this is perfectly in line with credit unions and what's taught at DE, uh, is the service that you experience. So, not
Hmm.
only being a part of this group of people that care about the same thing and are, motivated to help improve credit unions and cooperate and take things back to their own credit union. They're usually service-minded people that are ready to roll their sleeves up and get some stuff done. And we had some cool opportunities to do that during our week at DE, and I know you did too. So without going into too much detail about what we did,
Hmm.
that'll be some of the secrecy that we'll
Yeah. That's a
leave to the
secret we'll
unknown.
keep. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Love it. Love it.
How about you?
Yeah, man, I don't know. It's hard to sit here and not say, just the people, the people, the people, the people.
Mhm.
We I Our group chat has not stopped, and there are updates to it. It is the most active group chat from my team. We have a running text that has been going since Wednesday of last week now, so it is a full week long. And what an amazing group of people who were there to participate and there to be a part of it with each other. And yeah, I've definitely been in training situations, workshop situations where people either appear to be just there for, I don't know, for not being in the office, or have straight up told me like, I just need to get this certification and then I'm gonna, and then I'm done with this. And that there was none of that. It just is such a it's such an immersive program. I think even if you walked into it saying, I'm going to get this designation and then I'm,
Yeah.
whatever, this is all for the LinkedIn cred or whatever. I don't know why you would do it for that, but I don't think you could come out of it and still be feeling that way, because
No.
you really have a new view of the possibilities. And maybe, and I think it's interesting as we're talking about it, I'm thinking, reflecting on the fact that how different, like the different stages in our careers we attended this.
Mm.
And there was a part of me that thought, oh, there's so much of this stuff. If we're going to talk about the origins of credit unions and, some of this stuff, like it's going to be okay. I'm going to slog through that. But the way it was presented and the engagement that other people had, and really the opportunity to not just quickly go through like, it was this date and this date and this date and this French name you can't pronounce and this German name you can't pronounce, but to really understand the stories behind it and to be present in that kind of discussion. I sort of reignited all of the excitement I had early in my career when I
Sure.
learned that, probably from someone else who was equally a great teacher. But
Yeah.
you get to doing the tasks, man, and you forget where all of this came from and where that, those roots in people helping people. And
Mhm.
then to be able to take that, to be reminded that that is what your purpose is, and then be able to say, okay, now apply that to now.
Right.
Like, forget the German farmers for now. Put them where they belong in the past, and think about, our mission isn't done. We're not done with this work. What's the work today? Was uh was probably the reason they say trust the process, because that was really cool
Right. Yeah.
to get to that point.
Yeah, an important part of the process. And I can see how somebody who, has been with credit unions for a while could maybe learn that that's something that you're going to do there, or, be in the early parts of that part of the week and be like, oh man, like I know I've heard all this already,
Mhm.
but you're right. I mean, the way it's presented, and to be around other people and on the journey with them, in the process with them, I think can help make it all feel unique and be refreshing and
Right.
bring it back to your work. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So, what would you say? Did anything surprise you about the week?
I think right now, as I'm reflecting on it, there were a lot of surprises, but I think the thing that surprised me the most is the effect of taking away your title
Mm,
and not having your title for the week in a group,
yeah.
and how different that made the whole. I assume it made the whole thing.
Hmm.
And again, I've been through plenty of training, and when I was in the training role and taking um, train the trainer type certifications that were also a week long, were also really intense. You also learned a lot. Um, you went into that with a sense of, where you lived in the world, right? Because we had in some of those sessions. I had one session where one of the people in the session with me was like a VP of learning, or, there was that, there was a difference in how we treated each other, because I was merely a trainer and he
Yeah.
was leading the training team. I mean, he
Yeah.
was a good dude. We got along, but
Yep.
to not know, and we tried, we did pretty well right up until maybe Thursday evening, which is the point at which you're like loopy beyond recognition, and you don't know, you both know everything and don't know anything. And that was the point over dinner that we started looking at each other and being like, I think I know your title. I think I know your
Yep. Right.
but we managed to hang on to it until almost until we were able to reveal them. There was some hinkiness for our team, because one mentor said, yeah, go ahead and do it, because it was like an hour before we announced them
Yeah.
at lunch, and we started talking about it, and then somebody else came, what are you doing? You can't do that.
Yep.
So I should back up and explain. At the beginning of the week, actually, before you even go into the program, you give them your title when you register, and then you don't use your title again as part of, there's some online stuff and all of that. You don't use your title again. You're told not to talk about it with your team, and then they return your title to you at the end of the week.
Mhm.
So, and it was funny because in that group of 50 people, rather than going all week and being like, well, I can't overrule him because he's a AVP, I can't, she's
Yeah.
a CEO, rather than having that feeling, as we were all revealing what our titles were, people were applauding like you had just gotten that job. Like it was the most exciting thing in the world, that was the job you did.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
that brings like a renewal of excitement for what you do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. Definitely, the impact of checking the title at the door is like, I don't know, maybe you would think, maybe it's easy to imagine how that would impact your experience or whatever, but just how much I think is
Hmm.
surprising, and you don't really know what that feels like until you go through it. Because, yeah, you go to, well, first off, DE is not a conference, but you go to any other conference and like the first few questions, right? What do you do? What's your title? How big's your credit union? How many members? Blah, blah, blah.
Hmm.
What core are you on? Like all those usual
Right.
questions that you have with people. And yeah, I think we're human. There's no doubt that we're influenced by the title that somebody has or the role that we know they have in the organization and rank and file and where we might fit into that. And so I think definitely one of the most surprising and coolest parts of the experience is checking the title and leveling the playing field for the whole
Yeah.
week, right? That's
Yeah.
huge.
And I think something that was cool about it, and I swear to God, I'll give you a chance to talk, was that it challenged us not to do that thing. Where are you from? What's your title? What do you do?
Yep.
But to have real conversations.
Yeah.
And so, we, instead of that, we're talking about our spouses, our kids. We're talking about where we were born, where we grew up, what those experiences were. You just get to this whole different level of knowing someone that you don't get to if you just say, like, tell me what your title is and let me be impressed by it. Or
Yeah. Yeah.
so what about you? Was there anything that surprised you?
Um, I think the most surprising thing for me, I don't know, there were a lot of it's a week full of surprises, but I think one that really sticks with me as I think back to my experience was the like real emotional connection with certainly the people on my team, but really the whole class, you know. Um, there's a lot of moments throughout the experience where it gets pretty deep, emotions run pretty high, plus also like you're just super busy all week and
Hmm.
it's easy to be exhausted, and so that probably cranks up some of the emotions at times too. But But no, I mean, you talking about your group chat and everything, like, same thing. I mean, certainly ours has lost some energy or traction over the years because I went through it 6 years ago now. But there's still, actually one of the other mentors during the week that you went through it was one of my classmates, and seeing her was so great. And, so you just, unlike any other experience inside credit unions that I've had yet,
Mhm.
you form a real, like, true connection and bond with these people. And it is heavy emotionally. So, you just, like, some of that kind of stuff, you disconnect from work. Like, either because your guard's up and you don't want to let yourself get there, or the stuff that you're doing is day to day tasky
Mhm.
related, and just by nature not very emotional. But a lot of the week at DE is pretty deep and emotional, and you create true deep bonds because of it. And both surprising, and maybe another one of the aspects of the whole week that I think is um, one of my favorite things to think back to. And if there's anyone that's listening, we don't want to scare anyone. We do want to keep some things surprising. So I hope that what I'm saying isn't necessarily like turning anyone off to the experience. I think it's as emotional as you want to make it.
Yeah.
So if you're someone that, isn't, I don't know, whatever, a hugger, a crier, or whatever you think I am saying when I say emotional, um, it's like a lot of things in life, maybe anything in life, you kind of get what you give. So if you're open to the emotion, if you're open to the experience, it can be super heavy and really emotional. And that's, I want to be really clear as to what I'm saying. I'm not saying that if you go through DE and you don't cry, that means you're not in touch with your emotions or anything like that.
You can't lose for
Right,
not crying.
right, right. Um,
Yeah.
I think that
But
there's lots of other ways to be connected to the emotional
yeah.
aspect of the week, more than
How,
just getting physically emotional,
yeah.
right?
Yeah. I did ask though, and there is no prize for being the first one to cry, which was
Oh,
like
really? They must have got rid of that.
shocking and upsetting to me personally.
Yeah.
Who would have won it? But so
Nice. I'll get a trophy made up for you if
yeah,
I
would you? Would you?
sure.
That's good. Thank you. Thank you. So I think what I am experiencing right now, and yeah, no, exactly to your point. I want our conversation to make people want to learn more, explore it, be a part of this program. Um, so I don't want to freak anybody out, but I do also want to be honest about where my brain is at right now. And the answer to that is I don't know.
Mm,
I am still, there's still so much I'm processing. And part of what I'm processing is what are the next steps? I had this experience. This experience taught me a whole bunch of things and also gave me insights into how I can self-teach or help our team, learn other things and dive into real human need through the lens of a credit union, a QSO, all of that, which is awesome. Um, but I don't know what to do with that yet. I don't, I like everything to me right now is fuzzy. And one of our colleagues, Sarah, said that she came out of it feeling like her job was getting in the way of her purpose.
mm, mm. Yeah.
uh, I think that might be where I'm at right now. That
Yeah.
I have to figure out how to, instead of it feeling like those two things are at odds, how do
Right.
I move those two things together? How do I synergize, Ben, to use a
Nice.
marketing word? So that right now, that's how I'm feeling about my experience and I am telling you this to preload the question for you, because if you said, what about you? I'd have to be like, duh, I don't know. So having all of that preamble, when you came out of DE, How did you feel about your job, the industry, anything? What were all the feels that you brought out of DE?
Yeah, well, it, I think this is such a great question for this discussion because I think that it makes like a real connection to everybody's individual experience as they go through DE, and that like everyone will probably answer it uh, a different way, or or in a way that really, if they're answering truly and honestly and able to even like reflect on their experience depending on when they went through it. I think it is different for everyone, and for me, looking at my experience and my circumstances at the time that I went through, less than a year into a new career, fresh out of being self-employed for like a dozen years, like it was both like incredibly overwhelming, intimidating, and precisely what I needed when I went through it, because it helped kind of give me confirmation that I made a good choice, right? Like I'm actually a part of an
Hmm.
industry that really does care and really is trying to like make a difference in the world. And going back to my origin story here in credit unions, I mean, I really did think that a credit union was just another form of a bank, you know what I mean? And there is a difference, and DE makes all of them very clear. So for me, it was just incredibly inspirational, motivational, connected like all the dots for me as to like who I am, what experience I've had, what I bring to the table, and how I can like connect passion and purpose and skill and all of those things like within my job. So different than you and maybe Sarah's reflection or observation of it, where like my job was getting in the way. Like for me, my job was the way. It was like the
Hmm.
way that I could do the things that I had just learned about and everything. So pretty cool to hear like the difference, and
Hmm.
maybe part of it was my newness to credit unions. Maybe part of it was my age. I don't know, but also like I'm not much younger than you guys, so I'm sure it's just it's more about my circumstances and recent life experience having gone through it at that point. So the short answer is like I felt really good. I felt like completely empowered and like ready to
Hmm.
rock. So
Cool.
yeah, lucky me, I guess.
Lucky you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not to say that I don't feel that way.
Right.
I don't want to give you the impression that now I feel bad because, oh well, now I have to go do this job. Like I love my job,
Yeah.
and if anything, I think I just need I need to time to process how I can check in on myself and make sure that my job is fulfilling my purpose
Mhm.
and not lose sight of it.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And man, a constant challenge, right, is to be doing that and make sure that you're connecting what you do to fulfillment, and
Hmm.
doing that in a real way, right? Not just trying to connect some imaginary dots to make yourself feel good, but
Right.
but I can 100% imagine what it must feel like to get back, and I'm trying to very carefully and accurately speak to how you might be feeling about certain tasks that you have, day to day kind of things that you gotta do that are part of the
Hmm.
gig, that you're looking at those kind of things being like, oh my god, is this really helping me get me to the things that I want to be doing after everything that I just learned and experienced, and how
Yeah.
challenging that must feel. I can imagine.
Yeah. Yeah. Are we going to make a difference in the world with your brochure?
You're right. Right.
We're not. Forget it.
Yeah.
We're taking over the world now. Okay.
So, have you accurately and as deeply as you wanted talk about how you're feeling about your job after the?
I think so.
Yeah, cool.
I think so.
So, what would you say to someone that's considering it, on the fence, maybe is inspired to do it after hearing us, or maybe is a little scared to do it if they
Maybe was
came in?
supposed to do it. Now doesn't want to do it.
They're like, yeah, I don't want to do any of that. Thanks, guys.
I don't want to cry. I don't want to hug people. Um, I would say if you are afforded the opportunity to do it, if someone sees in you the person that, for whatever reason, whether it is by virtue of a strategy that your organization has, whether it is because of who you are as a person, uh, whether it is maybe what was the case for me, an opportunity to reignite something in you. You should do it.
Mhm.
You should do it. And I almost think the more you think you shouldn't do it, the more you should do it, because it is it's a uniquely safe space. Um, Especially, that part of that secrecy is nobody comes in, nobody in the class comes in already knowing, oh, well, it's going to be this thing and it's going to be that thing. Everybody is going through that mystery together. And you learn from the beginning, you are going to either support each other going through that mystery together, or you're not. And if you don't, then just like everything else in the world, in life, if you can't support each other, then you're not going to succeed. You're not going to prosper.
Mhm.
So it is. I actually had the chance yesterday to talk to one of our colleagues at the credit union who was supposed to go to DE, and doesn't think it's for her. Thinks it would be way out of her comfort zone. And this is someone who is amazing member service person, like the heart, just absolutely the heart of a servant, like could not be more the kind of person who could transform things given focus, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And all of the things, that we've maybe touched on that we're scaring people about, the group work, the being away, for a whole week, the long days, the uncertainty, all of that stuff is stopping her.
Mhm.
And I said, like, I'm not going to stop nagging you. I just want you to understand. Let's just level set today. I think that you are exactly the person who should be in that class. I think you are someone uh, who could apply all of your skill to transform something bigger. And frankly, this is a person I think is on a hamster wheel and has been the entire time I've worked with her, and I've worked with her a long time.
Mm.
So this is a person I think if she could be off her hamster wheel and gain that focus and reignite that purpose and spark toward development, that it would be pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So
Cool. That's a cool experience to have fresh off of it, to hear somebody's
mhm.
apprehension or observation or whatever. So nice. Yeah. So I'm really glad that you answered the way that you did, and the example that you gave, because again, multiple versions of an answer here for you. Theme of the day for me, apparently. The short one is like, just, you should do it. It if you're considering it, you should do it. Just go with that. Um, and at the same time, and this maybe goes a little bit against your answer, is if you don't want to, or if you don't think the time is right, like, first, like, check yourself on that, and you
Mhm.
should do it. Like, push yourself, you probably should do it. But if, like, in your heart of hearts, or if there's something going on in life or whatever, if, like, you can really, like, look yourself in the mirror and answer, like, yeah, I should not do this right now for whatever reason, like, if that's where you get, then don't do it. Like,
Mhm.
please give the opportunity to somebody else. Like, if you're going to go into it feeling voluntold, or I'm only here because my boss made me, or
Yeah.
you're not going to open yourself up to the experience, don't waste it. Do not waste it. Give somebody else in the organization that opportunity, because you're not, certainly not helping yourself, and you're not helping the organization. And I mean, I think it's a great value for the experience that you get out of it, but at the end of the day, like, looking at it on in a budget,
Mhm.
it's not cheap. So
Right.
um it's certainly not cheap or free. So, just even if only for the investment standpoint, like give it to someone that's going to get something out of it. And if you know that you're going to be closed-minded, don't do it. But
That's a good
also like,
point.
and as I'm saying all of that, like I hope that you're doing the homework before that and like really checking yourself. And is it like I really shouldn't, or is it just I'm cranky today, or
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever,
Or
like
or like me, if you are looking at it and going, uh my introverted nature, the way that being around people um all day long affects my energy, like if you are just assuming that it's going to be too much, first of all, you're probably right, but you're not the only one,
right,
right?
no doubt.
So there is a nice mix of people of all different types of personalities, really extroverted people, um, more introverted people. And just speaking for my team, +1, by the way, is my team name. Uh, and okay, wait. I'm going to explain to you after I say this thing, then I'm going to explain to you why our team is named +1. Because I loved it and I want to steal it forever. But if we had a really nice mix of different introverted, extroverted people on our team, and that team really gave space to everyone who wanted space and gave distance, right? That recharging distance that maybe sometimes as an introvert you need. So that was nice too.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Now do you want to hear why my team was named
Yeah.
+1?
Hit me. Yeah,
Okay.
for sure.
Okay. A member of my team, her name is Turkisha. She is amazing. When we were talking about our ground rules for our team, she and this to me, the way that she explained it told me this is the thing that she has experienced and it's something I've experienced. And so I really resonated so hard with it. She said, if you agree with someone, if we're having a discussion and you agree with someone, there is no need for you to repeat what they're saying and act like it is your insight. You just say I +1 that, and we move on.
Love it.
So that became one of the little catchphrases and you would not believe how much time that saved. Instead of because there were extroverts, there were, big personality leadership types in our team. And these are definitely the kind of people who would say, what that person said, which was this, and this. And I also think of this, would take you down this lengthy road to all they have to say is, I agree.
Mhm.
We all got in this space where we would +1 things instead of doing that. And it gave us a really nice way for even introverted people to be offering feedback. So sometimes you don't know what to say
Sure.
to agree.
Yeah.
So somebody would say something and everybody would be +1, +1, +1, +1, +1.
Love
And
it.
it was such a great way to get consensus. So that was what we chose for our team name was +1.
We need to implement this immediately. I love it.
Yeah. Do you like it?
Yep.
Yes, please.
Cool.
It's a little sharing. It's a little culture exchange. We gave them the land, the plane, and we're going to
Yep.
take the +1.
There we go. And we're all better because of it. I love it.
Right, right.
Cool. Well, we will share a little bit of information about how you can learn more about DE and all that stuff, right? And also anyone who's got our contact info, which by the way, you all do, you can reach out to us on our website if you want to ask Sue or I about it. We'd love to share more about our experience as much as we can without
Right,
digging into the
right.
secrecy, right? But
Yeah. No
yeah, cool.
secrets. You
I'm
got to trust the
really
process.
right, exactly. And we're all still, I guess, kind of in the process, right? I suppose some of what you're experiencing right now, connecting your experience to your work and everything, that's all part of the process. So,
It's true. It's true. Good point.
well, Well, congrats. Like I said when I was there for your presentation, I meant it. I really am proud of you. I know what it's like to go through that week, and you did it, and really happy for you. So, and
Thank
glad
you.
that you got to share some of your experience today.
Yeah, and I really appreciated you coming to the graduation. That meant a lot to me.
Yeah, I will admit with what I had on my plate that day, I was like, man, is this what I should be doing? But at the same time, it's like a huge gift for us to be close to Madison,
Mhm.
where when a teammate goes through a week like that, to be able to be even a tiny part of the celebration at the end of the week by making the 2 hour drive to Madison. Yeah, I need to do that. We need to do that kind of stuff. So, not everybody that goes through DE gets the opportunity to share in the celebration with their
Mhm.
coworkers and stuff because they're from all over the country or world, right? So yeah. So I was really happy to be able to be there. So I'm glad I could do it. Okay, let's close up shop here a little bit with our something awesome segment where we share recommendations, cool experiences, fun stories, stuff like that. And mine's going to be pretty short and sweet today. Um, but it is definitely what's on my mind recently. So, and that is youth baseball. I'm coaching my son's 8U baseball team, which
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that. That's great.
yeah. Oh man, I can't believe that we haven't stumbled upon it in conversation yet. Because yeah, we're like I don't know a month ish in now, and we've already played I don't know something like 7 or 8 games, and games. They're like if we
Mhm.
get to the fifth inning, that's pretty lucky because. They get like a bunch of extra pitches and swings and stuff. They're all still learning, and um, but I'm simultaneously coming to the end of another volunteer role, one that's quite a bit bigger than coaching 8U baseball for a couple months in the summer. But this big volunteer role with Rotary. I'm an avid Rotarian, very active, and have been in a really busy role for, well, really officially the last year. But when you start all the way back at the training and learning process, it's kind of a 4 or 5 year commitment. So I'm kind of coming to the, I'm not kind of coming, I am definitely coming to the end of that role. And admittedly, as I saw, so that role ends June 30th. Um, as I saw the date kind of approaching on the calendar and like starting to book stuff out into June and July, I was like, oh my gosh, that's going to be done by then. And so definitely was starting to feel like pre FOMO or, a little bit of like the hole in the heart, like, oh gosh, what am I going to, what, what am I going to do with my time? And well, okay, here I go. I'm rambling a little bit, making this short story really long.
Yeah, way to
But
go.
yeah, well, this is what I do. Welcome to Life with Ben Bauer. But um, I I also didn't want to like immediately fill it with something because this role has definitely taken me away from family and friends and stuff for a long time now. So I'm really just looking forward to being a dad and a husband and all that stuff and a bit more active at home. But also like I'm a busy guy and I'd like to be busy and Charlie was already going to be playing baseball. I was going to be there anyway. It felt like a really easy thing to say yes to and not adding too much time to the plate that was going to be dedicated anyway. So um, already I'm feeling like, okay, this is the thing that'll kind of like cool me down after this other role ends and, just to keep me busy enough. And also like with family. So like win-win for sure all around. So like at the very least, like it's done that already. Like it's helped kind of bring some peace to my volunteer life by staying busy with something else. But also like for those that don't know, I coached varsity football for 10 years and coached youth football for years before that, and haven't really been coaching for 4 or 5 years now. So just being back to like coaching and developing young people has been so awesome and just like filling the bucket and filling the heart. I mean, I have always said, looking back on my football coaching days, that the best part of that gig is seeing someone who, you know, when they first start, you're like, yeah, they're probably not going to be playing by senior year, or they're going to be one of those role player guys that, probably, will never start or whatever. We're happy to have them and all that. But then to see one of them like transform and all of a sudden become a dude, or,
Mm.
become somebody that just plays a really active role and is really important, maybe a starter or whatever, to see people transform and grow. Maybe not even like that significant of a transition, but, using youth baseball, the experience right now, I mean, to see a kid who like can barely swing a bat when they first come in to like getting hits in games, that's just the best. And I think it's most evident in youth sports. Like the younger you
Mm.
get, it's easier to see the transformation, when kids get older and around the same age and size and stuff, the playing field level a little bit. But just so happy to be doing it, to be there for Charlie first and foremost, but then to be coaching again and helping other kids grow and everything. It's been really, really fun. So, and I'm not like a baseball nut. I don't, I know the rules enough to coach and some situational stuff, and also like at that age, you don't have to know a whole lot. Coaching 8U is quite different, I'm sure, than coaching a lot of higher levels. Like at that point, it's like as long as they know which direction to run on the bases and when to be in and out of the dugout, that's a win. So it's been really cool to also learn a bit about baseball and how to coach it and everything too. So really enjoying my time with baseball right now.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. It makes me wonder, are you different at work? I have to ponder this. Are you different at work when you are coaching than when you're not? Does that activate a muscle in you that changes your day to day? Now I'm going to have to watch for it. Now you'll
Mhm.
be hyper aware that I'm watching to see.
Well, I think I can answer that for you, and I think the answer is yes. Like I think it does activate a muscle or change communication style and stuff like that. I'm probably a bit more direct in the last month than I have been lately, or like previously. But at the same time, I think I also am constantly trying to check myself like, okay, these are my adult coworkers and not 8-year-olds. So, you know, the way that I talk or give instruction or whatever is definitely different. So
Yeah.
I
But
think similar to like when I first became a dad and like started talking to my kids like a dad, some of that stuff can bleed into how you
yeah.
talk to coworkers and stuff, and you do have to kind of like just straight up tell yourself sometimes like these are my teammates, they're not my kids. So
Yeah. It was nice though the other day when you gave us all a potty break and then when we came back we had orange slices.
yeah,
That
right. Well,
was
you're welcome.
so that was a net positive for me. So more
It's
of that.
taught me a lot about providing comfort. Yeah, so I'm glad that you appreciated that. Juice box is next week, by the way.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Can't wait. I
yeah.
can't wait. I hope
Popsicles
you're
a week after that.
oh, yes.
Checking all the boxes. I know. Yeah.
Awesome. Oh God, I can't wait till you bring out the fruit by the foot and then we have a pizza party. Anyway,
Yes,
only if you win the games, right?
that's right.
Okay. So love it. Love it. I thought for a minute that your recommendation was going to just be baseball. Like people should find out what baseball is. But so the one I brought is actually a book I have started. I usually try to finish a book before I recommend it, but I am feeling so confident about this book, primarily because of the story. It is a book called The Radium Girls, The Dark Story of America's Shining Women. It is by Kate Moore, and it explores a really watershed uh, legal and workplace. I don't know why the word is escaping, but a watershed legal proceeding from the beginning of the last century, starting just before World War One, and then through World War One. Companies were using radium to make glow in the dark watch faces.
Hmm.
And then as they moved into World War One, they started to use them to make dials for meters and things for ships, right? So
Mhm.
clocks and all those kinds of things.
Sure.
And the people, the way that they made those watch faces is they hired young girls, some of them very young. So this book follows sort of the beginning of this manufacturing, and talks about some of the girls, they built studios, quote unquote. They called them studios. I mean, it was basically, it was a piecework situation where each dial face was worth a certain amount of money. But they, at that time, radium, which is a uh, radioactive element and glows in the dark, it had just been discovered by the Curies, and they were just starting to understand what prolonged exposure meant to people exposed to radium. And they didn't have the full scope of how much radium it took to affect you and what those effects were. And in order to paint watch faces, they gave girls as young as 13 and 14 were working in these studios. They gave them paintbrushes and tiny little containers of radium paint, and they were told that they had to be very careful because radium was very hard to come by. And because they had to be so careful, they couldn't wash their paintbrushes in water because you would lose radium in the water. So these girls, for a long time, were licking the paintbrushes, and they were trained to lick the paintbrushes to keep them very fine. And you were judged based on if you couldn't have a high level of accuracy with these very tiny paintbrushes and have those perfect numbers, you were fired. And in New York and some other cities, these were considered high status jobs. The girls who were in these studios were making more money than shop girls, or really any other career that someone that age at that time could make. So they were highly coveted jobs. And they talk about they would when they would leave the studio, because they were mixing radium dust to make the paint. So there was dust all in the air, and they would leave the studios at night when it was dark, and they would glow.
Oh my gosh.
Because they were just covered in radium dust. And actually one of the studios, as the war sort of dragged on and resources became more scarce, they started a procedure of the girls would have to go into a dark room and shed all of their clothes and shake all of the radium off so they could collect it.
Wow.
And what ended up happening is these girls started dying.
Sure.
And they refused to connect their, like, eating radium, consuming radium, it being all in the air, everything, their exposure to radium, to the cancers and the things that were happening there. It's horrific, the things that were happening. And there was a government agency. So this is post Triangle Shirtwaist Factory, if you're familiar with that. Triangle Shirtwaist Factory was in New York, and that was a very early case of starting to regulate workers' rights, because that case was the shirt. And this is what I was looking at before you jumped on, because I wanted to make sure I had all the good answers here. But they made shirtwaists, which I am not totally familiar with what this is as a piece of fashion, but it goes around your waist and it's made of fabric. And the factory was on the 8th, 9th, and 10th floor of a building. And they didn't like people to sneak out and take breaks to smoke. They didn't allow them to smoke on the line because they were cutting fabric all day long. So there was fabric dust in the air. There was fabric everywhere. And they had bins of discarded fabric and fabric hanging, whatever. And to keep people from sneaking out and smoking, they locked the doors. And somebody's bin caught on fire And I think it was over 120 women, over 20 men. They all died
Hmm.
because they could not get out in time, because it was, basically there were fibers in the air. So once
Sure.
the flame started, it just exploded.
For
So
sure.
that was a very early case of exploring workers' rights, and how some of those regulations came to be. And so this, the radium girls come kind of right on the heels of that, and starts to explore sort of that, what's, I guess we thought was an age old question, but is not that age old, I guess, of what did the company know and when did they know it? And could this have been prevented? And it's absolutely fascinating, because it's also a great study on attitudes toward, male versus female at that time. And there's a lot of this assumption that these are young girls who aren't as educated as the scientists who say radium is fine. And so they are dying, but they are attributing all these other things to them. And yeah, it's a really great book. It's really heartbreaking,
Yeah.
but it
Wow.
is a really great book. And I think it is a great example of what some of the things, that the extremes of what has to happen sometimes to create reform in an industry, and to start to understand how we level the playing field and treat people like humans, and create a better world through some of the rules and regulations that we need to keep people safe. So yeah,
Wow.
so that's a real downer. It's a really great way to end this conversation, but that is an excellent book. Again, it's The Radium Girls, The Dark Story of America's Shining Women. So good.
Awesome. I mean, not awesome, but
Not awesome,
Yeah.
but I mean, they probably saved a lot of lives too.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. A great
So
recommendation for sure. And, with living in a world where things are constantly changing, I can imagine how reading it and hearing that story can be a helpful reminder that while some things are imperfect, sometimes, and this doesn't make it any easier or better, sometimes things need to hit rock bottom before real change happens. And
mhm.
hopefully we
Yeah,
can be smart enough to make the change before that
right,
happens. But
right.
it's
Yeah,
weird
it's
how
a
it's like both sad and hopeful at the same time.
yeah, it's a good, I mean, it's a good example of thinking about advocacy,
Yeah.
and
Right.
how people from outside the industry and people's families and their friends and things like that, how you really need that kind of solidarity to make a change. And it takes a village. And
Yeah.
you get what I'm saying.
I hear you.
You're with me. Yeah. So
Awesome. Great recommendation, Sue.
yeah. So just watch. I mean, I'm just saying, now I've talked to you about Triangle Shirtwaist and this. So just be careful for what I read, because, just in case someday I'm going to be like, listen, here's what I learned.
Thanks for the
Yeah.
heads up.
So thank you, listeners, for coming this far for us. As always, thank you for joining us. You can always catch up with us and any of our shenanigans on your favorite podcast app, or you can find all of our episodes on our blog at exclamationqso.com/blog.
Thank you, Sue. Thanks, friends, for tuning in. Be awesome, and we'll see you next time.
The Osmology Podcast is a production of Exclamation Services. Thanks to Nick Mulliver for sound production and Kylie Ganther for our cover artwork.
Executive producers are me, Ben Bauer, and my friend Suzanne Campbell.